Just when you thought you'd expanded enough brackets for 1 week, let's do some more. Why not? Yeah, let's expand some more brackets. But let's ramp it up in difficulty a little bit, something approaching like a Year 9 standard level. You've been warmed up from yesterday's lesson, where you had some numbers or letters out the front and you whacked them in. You went 5 times x, 5 times 4, and kept your parts of your answers separate, right? You didn't put your 5x's and your 20's together because they're different. Now we're ready for a greater challenge, right? So yesterday we wrote down the explanation of what is happening when we expand brackets, that every term sitting inside the brackets gets multiplied by the term outside using the distributive property. Today questions get a bit harder. You'll be expanding more than one set of brackets per each question, right? Because you guys are in Year 9 now, you are grown up enough to do more than one thing and have some working out nice and organized and do more than one step of working out. So once we expand each set of brackets, we're going to look for like terms and simplify some more. When we get to questions that are longer and more protracted and require a bit more work, it's often the negatives that throw us out, because there are going to be minuses and pluses all over the place. We've really just got to slow down and make sure we know what's being multiplied and know our rules with negatives, so we can put a lot of pluses and minuses all in a row and make sure we're going the right way. So a pro tip for you guys is to have a really close look at what's on the outside and what's on the inside. Make sure you know where the terms are and where the minuses and the pluses belong before you start multiplying. So I see a bracket like this. What I see on the outside is a -6. There's a minus right in front of it. So if I'm looking for a negative on the inside, well, this too is negative as well, right? Identifying that this is a negative and that's a negative, that's really important. The 3x doesn't have a minus in front of it, so it's not a negative term. So when we start to multiply this -6 in, we can start to remember our rule, where if we have one negative and one positive, it spits out a negative answer. But if I multiply two negatives together, it spits out a positive answer. So we'll just do this now to make sure we've got that. So first of all, when I multiply this -6 in, the first thing we should multiply is the 3x, which is positive. So I'm multiplying a I'm multiplying a -6 by a positive 3x. So I'm going negative times positive. So I should be putting a minus in front of my answer to show it's negative. And then it's just the small matter of going 6 times 3 is 18, and there's also an x there. Right, we need to continue expanding this -6 into the bracket. So now I'm multiplying -6 by -2. A negative times a negative is a positive. And because I've decided that, now I can write a plus after the 18x. I don't do it automatically. I'll wait and see if I've got a negative or a positive. And 6 twos is 12, right? And this is expanded, and I got my negatives right. All right, let's just throw a couple of examples at you of this then, just to show you what is happening. And make sure we get our negatives and our positives sorted. So this is what's in store for you today. You're going to have two separate sets of brackets that are kind of part of the same question. You've got to deal with the expanding first, and then we'll worry about what comes out of the expansion afterwards to try and simplify our answer. So we're going to deal with this chunk first, because the 4 is multiplying into this bracket, and then I've got a +3 multiplying into this bracket. So we'll start with the 4. The 4 hits the A, it makes a 4A. And the 4 then hits the 3b, right? We're still not putting a's and b's together because we can't. We're just multiplying them one at a time and building our answer from that. Okay, now we can have a look at this bracket, right? There's nothing else for this 4 to multiply, right? It multiplied its brackets all the way out. Now we can move on to this 3. The 3 hits the 2b. This is a positive times a positive, so we can now put a plus there and say that we've got 6b's. And now we've had our first negative for this example pop up. We're multiplying a normal 3, a +3, by a -6a, and a positive multiplied by a negative means I put a minus. 3 times 6 is 18, and I've got a. Now we don't stop there and rest on our laurels. We're only halfway done. We've got like terms to combine if we can, and unfortunately for you guys, they're going to be popping up all through your work today. So I've got 4a's here and minus 18a's here. You can type it in your calculator or do it in your head, but 4 take away 18 is -14. And that's how many a's I've got, right? We're not playing with powers. We're not getting rid of a's or making more a's in terms of powers. We're just using the numbers at the front to see how many a's we have. And then we've got 12b's and 6b's, and they're both plusing, so we've got positive 18b's. And now we are done with example 1. Second and final example today. We'll keep this one nice and short and sharp. More of the same, but we've got more negatives and more letters involved as well. So we're just throwing everything we've learnt together, really. So again, this expansion is going to be treated completely separately than this one here. All right, so we shouldn't be chucking 4b's over here. It's not multiplying this bracket, it's only multiplying this one. Right, that's the negative 3a's job to get into this bracket here. So we start by chucking the 4b into here. All right, so 4b times a means I've got a 4 and an a and a b in my result. Then I can multiply 4b by 3b. Everything's positive right now. Let's put a plus in. 4 threes is 12, and I've got a b and another b. So now it's time to start using powers. B times b makes b squared. We are done expanding this bracket that I've circled in green. The 4b has nothing else to do, so we're done here. We can move on to the minus 3a. All right, so now we're expanding with a negative. We have to keep that in mind, right? We're multiplying a negative 3a by a positive 2b. A negative times a positive means I should be putting a minus there. 2 times 3 is 6, and then I've got a and I've got b in my work. All right, we now need to finish off using this minus 3a. It goes with minus 5, a negative multiplied by a negative. I can now put a positive. And 3 times 5 is 15. And the letter A was part of my work as well. I multiplied this A over here. We'll have a quick look for some like terms, and yes, we do have some. All right, so we're going to have to put this one and this one here together. No like terms for the b squareds or for the a's, so they're just going to drop down and be part of my answer. So to finish this off, 4 take away 6 leaves me with negative 2ab's. And then I've still got 12b squareds, and I've still got 15a's, and I have expanded with letters and numbers. I've used negatives and positives, and I've simplified my answers by combining like terms. So lots of fun work to do that keeps making that brain get bigger and bigger. So let's get through some questions.